Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council and municipal staff that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. All council meetings are also recorded. Recordings will be available to the public on the township's YouTube account. This meeting is held electronically under Bylaw 2020-70 to amend Procedural Bylaw 2018-117 pursuant to Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. I'd like to give our First Nations land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We will move to the adoption of the agenda. Sue, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, we're amending the agenda to have a closed session.
It's my understanding that the agenda was changed and republished to include closed session.
Yes, just wanted to note it because this was the original agenda that council was presented with.
Okay, so council, I'm assuming you received the updated agenda that was posted to the public, and the closed session will include the court file and the human resources update. So we have that on the republished agenda. So Sue, is it okay if I just say it's being approved as presented because that's how it has been presented now?
Yes.
Okay. The recommendation is that the council and committee agenda for Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And that's carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest this morning?
None.
Okay,
None here.
I see none. This morning we have a delegation. We have Doug Thackeray, structural designer for Barry Bryant Associates regarding the Paul J. Akatluski Community Center change orders. Doug, there we are. I see Doug.
Good morning.
Doug, can you turn your camera on or is it going to cause you internet grief?
We'll see. There we go.
There we go. Okay, great. I'll turn it over to you, Doug, to speak to this.
Okay. So throughout the construction of the rink slab replacement at the community center, at the hockey rink, we've come across a couple conditions that we've had to have change orders for. One of them being there's concrete tie beams underneath the existing rink slab that we've had to revise the refrigeration mains, basically the lines that go back into the refrigeration room to go beneath those concrete tie beams. And along with, we've also had to revise the soil to excavate more soil and add in new layers of soil beneath the rink slab itself to have proper bearing of the rink slab and ensure future solid sub base below it to ensure it doesn't crack in the future. That is our two main change orders. I know there's the revised door size into the refrigeration room. That is to accommodate the size of the pumps that Hillary told me previously that they just taken out block to accommodate. And now we're just adding a wider door so you don't have to do this again in the future. And then two items for consideration for the township are if they want to install goal lights and if we want to add two doors to the benches along the sides. That would allow coaches and anyone injured players access to the benches without having to go across the ice surface.
Okay, great. Doug, then would you take some questions from council if anyone has any?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right. I see Councillor Poplinski has his hand up. So Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. Actually, I had a question, Doug, and I thought about it after we'd left the meeting at the arena that day. And in the past, we had a lot of leakage over the years, and before we finally decided to make these changes. And I'm wondering, when I saw the concrete tie-in beams, were the areas where the leakage happened and the pipes obviously were breaking up, was it in relation to those beams, or did they have any bearing on those issues?
They should not know. There'd be no movement in those beams below the ring
Okay.
slab.
Yeah, what I was wondering was design, and whether, if that was an issue, then would that be something we would be cognizant of as we move forward with that?
My best guess of the previous leakage would be the sub base between the concrete tie beams. As we pulled that up, what we do now is we have minimum 4 inches of sand, and there's only 1 inch of sand with a coarse material below that, and that might have led to the rink slab potentially moving and causing the leakage.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds
Okay.
like you've addressed the issue. That's good. No, I had that question, so I needed the answer. Thanks.
No worries.
okay. Council, any other questions for Doug on what's been put before you? Councillor Wilmer.
Not so much on what's before me. I guess what I'd like to know is what's ahead for us. I mean, we're still fairly early in the project, and we've now taken it up to 1.75 million. Do you foresee many other change orders coming along as this project proceeds? I know it's probably a difficult question, but just does this sort of give you a substantial idea of if there are going to be further issues as we go?
So in our experience with this, most of our change orders will come from the demo and figuring out what's below, because that's generally what's unknown about the whole project. Once we come out of the ground, everything should be pretty straightforward, and our change orders should be minimal, hopefully, if not kind of stop at where we are.
Okay, no, that answers my question. And I know the beams underneath were a real surprise, and I think a surprise to everyone. So thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Doug? Okay, I don't see any. So I guess we'll move to the second item, which is the report from Hillary Arena Tender 2022-01 change order. And there's a recommendation. Sue, did you want to read the recommendation? And then I'll have Hillary speak to the report if he has anything to add.
Yes, through the chair, the council approved the operations manager's recommendation to proceed with the following change orders. Tender 2022-01 arena slab replacement, and that the following expense consists of the following subgrade removal: $16,014.99, refrigeration main layout $31,987.39, players bench gates $4,081.66, mechanical room door $7,323.22, and goal lights $2,718.59.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Council, did you want Hillary to speak to his report then? I guess, Hillary, is there anything you wanted to add at this point?
Through you, Chair, it's pretty straightforward. There's 3 items that must proceed for the project to proceed, and the 2 are the players' bench gates and the goal lights. The goal light, it was relayed to me that we only use it for Heritage Cup. I don't know if that's true. And the players' bench gates, I believe that it would be added feature that is beneficial to the overall arena for people to vacate if they have to, or emergencies. I think, and the goal light is totally up to council.
Okay, thank you. So the gate can be considered a risk management issue because it does mean that people don't have to cross the ice to get to the players bench. Is that correct?
Correct. They have cement to walk around.
Okay, I think that's important. Council, any questions for Hillary on this recommendation? Councillor Poplinski.
Thank you, Mayor Love. I think the goal lights are absolutely necessary. We're spending a whole lot of money to renovate the rink for hockey purposes as well, and you can't have a real hockey game without goal lights. So it's a very small expenditure.
Okay, thank you. Now, I noticed that our treasurer is with us, and I'd like to just ask the treasurer if she could speak to where we'll find the funds in order to pay for the change order. Amanda, I know you were working on this. Could you speak to that?
Certainly. So on Friday, myself, the operations manager, and the recreation and community development coordinator sat down and combed through the budgets. So within the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center budget, which is 2836, so 015-2836-782-150. That is the building maintenance budget. We budgeted $40,000 for 2022. To date, we've spent $9,500. So reasonably, we feel that we could draw $20,000 from that building maintenance budget. And then looking at the parks capital budget, the 128-41-799-998, we budgeted $80,000 for the finger docks, not knowing how much both of those units would cost realistically. So now that we have the Barry's Bay finger docks completed, we see that the total spent was $15,000, and therefore the Combermere ones that will be addressed in the fall and winter of this year, it should reasonably come in at the $15,000 to $20,000 mark as well. So we believe we could draw $42,000 from that parks capital budget as well to be able to offset this extra expense. So the key would be that to make sure that staff watch those two budget lines, make sure that we do not go over what those amended amounts are, with the understanding that we will be drawing these significant amounts over into the Paul J. Yakabuski capital expenditure line. So we feel these are reasonable moves within the budget that would help us offset these expenses.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there any questions for Amanda on that? Because it's important that council understand how the treasurer proposes that we pay for this. Any questions on that? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Sue, should we do a further resolution saying where the funds are going to come from?
I would prefer if we did, yes. If you had a mover and a seconder, maybe I'll just ask Amanda to just read those amounts and the associated object codes where it will come out of.
Okay. Would you like to add that to the recommendation? And I'll ask that the mover and seconder if they would accept that amendment.
We can do that, absolutely.
Okay, would the mover and seconder accept the amendment so we identify where the funds come from? I'm seeing that both of them do. So Amanda, do you need a second? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry.
We've all done it once today so far.
Okay, so the amendment should have that that $20,000 be drawn from the Paul J. Yakabuski building maintenance expense line. And the line number is 015-2836 782-150, and $40,000 from the parks capital budget. And the line number is 015-2841 799-998.
Was it 40 or 42,000?
Sorry, 42,000, because I believe
Okay.
the total expenditure is slightly above 60.
Okay. So that's the amendment, council, to the resolution. Any discussion on that recommendation? Okay, I'm seeing none. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, Doug. We appreciate your attendance. We'll let you get back to your very busy job, making sure that
Okay.
our arena renovation goes well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Sue, was there anything else we needed to do in relation to this so that this project can keep moving forward, or are we good at this point?
No, we are good at this point unless the operations manager had any concerns.
Hillary, any concerns?
We are good to go.
I like to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've completed that, our delegation process. We are going to move into our council and committee portion of the agenda. All recommendations from the standing committees are recommendations to council and are pending the approval of council at a subsequent meeting. And with that, I am going to be turning it over to Chair Bromwich to take us through operations, roads, and waste management.
Thank you, Mary Love. First item on the 7.1 municipal reports is from Mike Phillips. He's got a recommendation here that we accepted his information. So I'll let Mike bring us up to date on his report, please. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thanks, Carl. Good morning, everyone. So I got their Public Works project update here. If there's any questions, we can get them at the end. I think it's all pretty regular stuff. Some of the big items were some of our tenders that went out, but I think Hillary has some reports about those after, but some good news there on some of the unknowns with the crazy prices and what we could have had. So I think that's kind of our big ticket items. So if there's any questions on the rest of it, I'll answer whatever I can.
No, thank you, Mike. It's pretty straightforward, as you say. We got that picnic table picked up off Crooked Side Park. It's too bad the vandalism is happening like that, but every year we seem to go through the same thing. Mary Love, to you, please.
It's sort of a question around Mike's report. The public's allowed to bring brush to Yard 2 in the spring. Lately, we've been having a lot more storms go through, and there's a lot of damage and down trees and branches. Is there a deadline at which point the public can no longer bring brush to Yard 2, or is that something we have considered maybe leaving opened to the public to be able to do until the end of summer? Any thoughts on that? I'm just a bit concerned as we watch some of these storms go through that there will be a lot of brush.
Yeah, it's the brush depot is currently still open now, and I think will remain open until I'm advised otherwise. But the influx, yeah, for sure, it's a lot in the spring, but then it seems to kind of peter out as people quit their spring cleanup. But you know, if we do have big storms or whatnot, it does come in. But it seems to be working very well, and I haven't seen any issues. The brush that's being brought in is nice and clean, and the fire department comes and burns it at the end of the season, and it's easy for us to clean up. So I can't see any issues with it at all.
Okay, I'm just wondering if it's something we could consider doing, is leaving that service open to that part of the community, because it's a goodly ways to take brush to Bark Lake from
Absolutely.
Combermere. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, Mayor Love, thank you. I think especially when many of our taxpayers are seasonal residents, some of them won't show up until July, and the storm has gone through and they have no place to take the brush. So I would encourage that to stay open, and thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, I just note the deputy clerk just sent a note that it is advertised as being open until the end of June. Would you would we need a council resolution to keep it open until the fall, Sue?
I don't think we need a resolution. If you just advise staff, we can make sure that we make that change. We do have a newsletter going out in the next tax billing, and we can put it on the municipal corner as well as the municipal site. We can also just advise our landfill site attendants in Combermere and Bark Lake that will remain open till fall.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought June the 30th was the deadline on it. So, but we can look at it as we get closer to the end of the month. And like you say, storms are coming through continuously. And yeah, Bark Lake's quite a haul for people. I agree. I don't think we need a resolution. That's just to accept his information. Thank you, Mike, very much. We can get on to 7.1.2, which is the update on the Admansky Swamp Culvert County Road 62 from Hillary, if you wouldn't mind. see there. There he is. Thank you, Hillary.
Through you, Chair, there's new information that
Mhm.
they're looking at a liner, a box liner. Good news for us, and we just waited out. They will not proceed until they're trying to get permission for 2022. If not, till 2023, and they assume that DFO will allow this, a box liner, culvert liner. I think it's a good thing.
Perfect. I know I've had a little feedback from people on that road that they were very worried about the traffic with the children and that. And I think this will put everybody's mind at ease. And I think that's really good news, Hillary. Thank you very,
Yes.
very much. I think that's to be received as information also. I don't think we need a resolution on that.
Correct. If there's more further information, I will update council.
Very good. Thank you very much. 7.1.3, tender hot mix pavement. Maybe Hillary could give us a little bit of an overview on this one.
Sorry, I
So-
had a question.
Sorry, Mark, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I had a question on
That's all right.
the previous item. First of all, I just want to say I think this is really, really good news. I too had people concerned about the routing of the traffic. But I just have a small question, I guess really to Mike. Mike, are we going to be putting any signage up in the safety zone indicating that it's in place? We have both Island Lane and Lakeshore Drive. And I know there are the yellow signs at the curb to slow people down. And but I'm just wondering if we're going to be putting any safety zone 40-kilometer speed signs up.
Yep. So there is one, on one end, there is a safety zone in place now.
Okay.
I only had one and I have the other one on order, but it hasn't showed up yet. So just reminds me, I'll have to double check on that order and see when it's going to be in.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Any further questions on these last two items? I guess we're okay. The hot mix pavement, if you could walk us through the tender here, please, Hillary, if you wouldn't mind.
Through you, Chair, I have a situation. I think we didn't include the report. We just have 2 of the opening minutes, but from what I see here. But the resolution would read that we accept the lowest tender BEI at 478,944.60. Or is somebody seeing something different?
No.
I have my. So
Maybe I could get Sue to read the recommendation and we'll get it on the table.
Through you, Chair, that council award tender MV 2022-09 hot mix pavement to Bonashare Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $478,944.60, HST included, subject to the requirements of the tender. And that the expense is applied against account 015-0814-703013, budget 2022 roadway capital expenditure hot mix pavement.
Also move that. Could I have a seconder on that, please? To you, Ernie Poplinski, seconded. Any questions on the tender? To you, Mark?
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Hillary, just a quick question. I noticed that one is quite a bit lower than the other 2. How does it fit in with what we had budgeted?
okay, yes. So in the body of the report I had, we had budgeted 50,000. So we're perfect here with taxes included. We're at 478. So if you take away the 1.76 that we pay, we're in good shape here. It's under. I would. I'm very
500,
happy
Hillary.
with this. Yeah, it's very good.
That's great. Thank you.
To you, Ernie?
Yes, my question to Hillary. Hillary, the current cost, I'm sure it's is substantially more than what it was last year because of the price of oil. And if not, and the reason I ask a question is that if it's not being reflected in the asphalt cost, would it be wise to actually order more if that was the case? But first of all, how much more are we paying this year than last year?
Well, I believe through you, Chair, that the efficiencies are, there's a local asphalt plant. If you notice, the other two tenders are substantially higher. I believe vehicle fuel is a big driver here,
Okay.
from what I see. And if you notice, the double surface tender has went over our allotted budget. So I believe the savings here between this and the double surface tender will be relatively neutral. That's where I'm going with this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on that? To you, Sue.
Just to Hillary's report. So the financial implication that was listed is that budget 2022 roadway capital expenditure, various roads, hot mix pavement road was budgeted at 500,000. And it was for Dam Lake Road, Staniszewski Road, 7 kilometers of hot mix, Island Lane, 0.35 kilometers of pulverized granule A, 50 millimeter hot mix,
Hey there.
Wilowski Drive, 2 kilometer pulverized granular A, 50 millimeter hot mix, and culvert replacement.
Thank you. Any further comments on this? Then I'll call the vote if you wouldn't mind. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Last but not least, we have tender 2022-08 for double surface treatment, item 7.1.4. Back to you, Hillary, please. You would take us through it.
So we received, okay, it happened again on this one, but that's okay. Or can anybody see my actual report?
No, Hillary.
Okay, so we received one tender from Greenwood Paving for 216,533. That's where I was in the body of the report. We have $150,000 budgeted. So it's higher, but I believe on the savings on the hot mix, it'll come out as neutral. So we received one, and the recommendation is to accept this tender.
Can I get Sue, if you read the recommendation for me, please?
That council award tender MV 2022-08, double surface treatment to Greenwood Paving in the amount of $216,533.43, HST included, subject to the requirements of the tender, and that the expense be applied against account 015-0814-703013, budget 2022 roadway capital expenditure paving double surface treatment.
Also move that. Could I have a seconder, please? And that's you, Mark. Thank you. Any questions on this? And to you, Sue, please. Thank you.
Just to be aware of what was in the report under financial implications, that the budget 2022 roadway capital expenditure, various roads, double surface treatment were for Parcha Road, Shannon House Road, Chippewa Road in the amount of 150,000.
Thank you very much. Any further questions on this tender? Could I have a vote then, please? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. That's the last of any correspondence. There's no correspondence information, any unfinished business. I don't see any, and I pass this back to you, Mayor Love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Normally, our next item would be operations, water, wastewater, and facilities. I don't see anything on the agenda. Sue, is there anything that's come up for Chair Schulist?
No, there is not.
Okay, Chair Schulist, did you have anything?
No, I do not. So I guess we
Okay.
can just continue.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be double sure of that, so we didn't miss
Okay.
something.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, then our next committee is Fire and Protection and Emergency Management, and I'll turn it over to Chair Poplinski.
Thank you, Mayor Love. We have 9.1 municipal reports in pages 47 to 52 in your package. And it's the fire department activities. And if we could have, I believe we have the chief with us this morning. If he'd be so kind as to give us his report.
Good morning, Chair Poplinski. Yeah, the report's pretty much self-explanatory. So if council or any council members have any questions, I'd be more than happy to respond to them. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward.
As now, once again, I can't see everyone's hand, so if someone has their hand up, just please just speak up or let me know. But I'm wondering, has anybody got any questions or comments regarding the report on activity?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, thank you. Not having any questions, I'm wondering, Chief, if you could, we're now going into the bylaws, so 53 to 57, the bylaw activities 9.12. You have that report in front of you. Is there anything that you wish to?
So this report also is pretty self-explanatory. Unless any council members have any questions, I can respond to them. But other than that, it's pretty much straightforward to sort of business as usual.
Once again, if anybody's got their hand up, just let me know. Yes, Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair Pawlinski. Just in relation to the work that's being done with sea containers, trailers, bunkies, I would just note that a number of times I've received, people have tried to contact me about the issues they say they're having because there's been a complaint against them on one of those issues. It is not something that I as mayor engage in. It is not something that I can assist with. It is something that I do redirect to staff. Staff is just ensuring that there's compliance with the bylaw that has been in place for a very, very long time and that was approved by council. So just so the public is aware, please, if you're having an issue, you feel you're having an issue with compliance, you need to deal with the compliance officer or the bylaw officer, bylaw enforcement officer, because that's where I'm going to redirect your concern. We don't get in the middle as members of council. So I just wanted to state that again. I have stated it in the past. I just would like to state it again because as the compliance is as the work is being done, that's what's happening. So I support staff in their work to ensure that there's compliance with the bylaw. Thank you.
Yeah, to Councilor Pawlinski, Carl here.
Yes, please carry on.
Thank you. I too have been receiving calls, as you have, Mayor Love, directly to me about especially camping and from several people. And it gets to be a little bit of an old story here. I tell them that you should be contacting our staff. We have bylaw officer, we have an enforcement officer that I'm going to refuse discussing it on the phone. I'm going to just give them a phone number and remove the call from my ear. As I think it gets to be a habit, and it's kind of annoying when you get a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night complaining about stuff. So I just I hope the public understands that we do have a staff that's taking care of this. And I reiterate your statements. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments or questions? I'm just wondering, Corey, while we're on that subject, we're dealing with page 53 in the report, and you mentioned about the CGIS reporting system. I'm wondering if you could enlighten us a little bit as to what we can expect, because you're talking about it's going to generate reports for council to see. So could you give us a little bit on that?
Yes, Chair Pawlinski, what it is right now I go line by line every time we get an incident, update it every month, give percentages. This new CGIS will actually give us a automated report. It'd have to hit print, save a whole lot of time and hours to as opposed to doing duplicate work. It will also track any incidents. So either the compliance officer, the building inspector, or anybody else that can look up that incident to see how many times we've been there. So if we ever had a late charge, what we spoke to the person about, what the incident of the call was. It's a great system. It's going to track everything from here to eternity for us. So it's one of the most advanced tools we've had in years. So it's a great benefit to us. And council, like I said, you'll see any calls. They come in automatically, be timestamped, so you'll know where we're going, how many times we went to those same addresses.
So is this something that we have talked about previously about tracking the short-term rental issues and all of that? Is that all part of the same?
This will track absolutely everything, right from a building violation to short-term rental violations to dog complaints, to parking complaints. It'll track absolutely everything that we do.
Okay.
Complaints, and you'll be able to see it
Okay.
up front, and it'll be a report generated automatically every month for us. So save us like a ton of work. It's very transparent for the public also when we show it.
So could you tell me, is that now up and running or is it still in the process?
Chair Proplinski, we were trained there about 2 weeks ago, so that it's up and running now. We're just getting our feet, boots on the ground, kind of getting used to it, but
Okay.
it is up and running, and next month we will see the actual report for our council. So the first report coming out in July.
I'm just wondering if any of the other council or staff have any questions, comments on that? Because I think it's a really worthwhile program, and I'm anxious to see, it in working for us,
Councillor
Kuplinski?
Councillor Wilmer has his hand up.
Yes, Councillor Wilmer, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
first of all, I do agree with you on that. I think this will be a great tool for Corwin and his department. My question is a different one, however, and Corwin, I know you've sent us a memo regarding the what I call hate language on the main street and the number of complaints you've had. I think you had 280. I am also getting complaints, or at least comments, that it just does not look good or reflect well on our community. And I know it's difficult to enforce, but I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do at all, or is that something we just will have to live with? It seems sad because it's right across from the library. It's it just and we have many tourists. It's the impression they're left with of our community.
Yes, Councillor Wilmer, I have spoken to this person about 4 or 5 times. There's nothing we can do because of freedom of speech. I've looked into every angle. I spoke to the federal government. They said no, it's freedom of speech. Talked to the OP. They said the same thing. Unfortunately, he has every right to fly them. I've heard people saying they're very offensive, and I've tried to explain that to him. He just refused to take them down. He said, "People want to speak to me, come speak to me."
Yeah, thank you. I just find it sad. I believe in freedom of speech, but I think there are some limits, and I don't agree with that. But I know you can't do anything, Corwin. I wonder if there was a bylaw. No, I guess we can't even do that. But anyway, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, Councillor Poplinski. We spent a lot of time thinking about this. We have no way out really, but when my idea is that if people are complaining about this protest, freedom of speech, they have a right to protest also. And I'm not trying to encourage a confrontation here, but if the people of the town find this offensive, then stand up and state that fact, maybe even across the road with a duplicate sign saying, stop this. Peer pressure is the only way it's going to stop. We can't stop it from any. It's an awful thing to see coming into town. That's not a welcome sign. That's like, stay out of town. We're trying our best here to make our community hospitable and beautiful. And to have one incident like this to ruin it is absolutely disgusting. So my idea would be anybody that calls, tell them they have a right for freedom of speech. Utilize it also on the other side. That's about the only way anybody's approaching this. And you see it in Ottawa, you have protesters and anti-protesters. And I think that's just the way of the times right now. And I'm going to tell people, if they phone me, you've got a right to make your statement also. And peer pressure is about the only way we're going to stop this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bromwich. Anyone else comments? I don't see any hands. Oh, yes, Madam CAO.
Councillor, I was just going to add to this CGIS, what we did to have a starting point is we forwarded all of the spreadsheets that we had from the municipal compliance officer who was filling in his reports, and what we have from Corwin starting back in January 2022, just to give us a starting point. so that we have those reports to start with in the CGIS as it starts to generate the reports.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so,
Mayor?
Mary Love has her hand up.
oh, yes, Mary Love?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Corwin, where would those complaints be in our list of incidents? Should it be under property standards? What is the complaint? How would we, I would, if there's a complaint of that magnitude that you're coming up towards, because I've received them too, and I don't know how to respond to them other than there's nothing we can do. It is a free country. So are those complaints part of, I don't see them in your page 55, for example, bylaw complaints. They're not here. Should they be here? And what would they be? Like, it is a complaint. You are attempting to address it. Yeah, I know I'm trotting very delicately here because I'm really not sure what we could or couldn't do. And at least it would be nice to be aware of how many complaints have been received in regards to the display on the main street. I will call it that.
Marilyn, what I've been doing is just keep tracking my notebook as a complaints committee because there's really nothing in our bylaws. So that's why it's not shown as a property standard. We have nothing to
Okay.
actually truly label it as, but I have been keeping an active count as they come in from the people. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I roughly know how, that's how I know how many people complaints I've gotten so far to this date. So that's what we do. We don't have a bylaw or anything, so it doesn't fall under any jurisdiction that we actually have. I know it's kind of a vague way of doing things, but I can come up with a number and actually show you where they've, most of our phone calls that come in are people walking to the office and catch me, or people who catch me on the street. So I note that in my notebook. So that's how I'm keeping track of everything.
Okay, so that explains to me why I don't see it under bylaw complaints, because technically we
right.
have no bylaw that you can enforce.
That's correct. That's
Right.
why.
All right, I just think it's something that, to a certain extent, it's important that we're aware if there's some issue like this where we have no way to enforce anything, but it is a concern to the community. So I do appreciate you bringing it to council's attention. And certainly council's also had it brought to our attention through the communications that we've received. So thank you for that.
Councillor Wilmer's hand is up.
I think we just need to, work together and try and, speak to these people with some common sense and because we don't want to inflame the situation, we don't want other copycats. That what can happen. And I just hope that they'll be reasonable about it and it'll go away. So that's my feeling at the point we can't do anything about it other than use the approach, as I say, of just, speaking with them, I think, and explain the harm that's being done to our community. So,
Councillor Wilmer, sorry,
once again,
Councillor Wilmer's hand is up.
Wilmer,
Sorry.
okay. Could you, you have the floor, Councillor Wilmer.
Thank you, Chair Poplinski. I just wanted to add to, we're not the only community that's got this problem. In fact, there's an article in the National Post about Port Colborne, and they took a homeowner with almost the identical signage to court, and the homeowner won. So it's, it's something we really can't do anything about. It's sad, but I think it's important, as Councillor Poplinski said, not to inflame things and not to encourage copycats. I think we need to be able to explain to people that we can't do anything and explain why, because we're all getting questions on it.
It's very true. Thank you, Councillor Wilmer. If there's no further comments on that, I'd like to go back and deal with their fire report, Corey. You have a 2-page report here and dealing with training and dealing with several other things. So I'm just wondering if you would like to highlight that, because I'm sure there will be some comments and questions. So pages 47 in the package.
Okay, what would you like to elaborate on? I'm more than happy to, so I don't
Basically, I think the training is extremely important. You've met some, I think, some good response and it looks like you're on top of it, but I think it's important for the council and the public to know exactly what's happening there.
Okay, on May 7th, we went down to the trade show in Toronto for the Ontario Fire Chiefs Association. While I was there and I walked in, I met the deputy fire marshal, had a good chat with him for about half an hour. He explained they are working with us for the certification to go step by step. They're trying to find funding. They're trying to find every way that we can become compliant. Help us recruit our firefighters and keep them. They do not want to discourage firefighters from staying. This is not a thing to get firefighters to join and then join the city fire departments. This is to make sure everybody's safe is behind it. He said, we will help you. He gave me his personal phone number, his personal email. If we can't get satisfaction through our advisor, he will step in and help us. He said, we are working every which way we can to make sure everybody's safe. That's the only reason behind the certification is not to knock the firefighters. They know how good they are. It's to make sure they're trained properly. So if something does go wrong, they keep themselves safe. And he said, they are going to try to push for money next year, 2023 budget for training. He said to offset the cost because they know it's an extreme amount of cost to the fire departments. And like he said, if we do have an issue, to contact him directly, and he will definitely help us. They said they will bring in trainers to train on our training nights. They will do an internal training, but proctors will do the testing on our training nights. It won't cost any extra for training. So they're going to work every single way. They said, this is not to set up a fire department to fail. This is to set up the fire department to be certified properly, make sure everybody's safe because it's getting more and more dangerous for things such as electric vehicles, the construction of new homes, the things they're using. So that's the reason behind it. So nobody gets ever killed. And to be able to make sure we're meeting our core services that are trained to that point and whatever we can. If we're limited our core services, then we stick to our core services and don't try to extend ourselves. That's the reason he said behind it. And again, he emphasized any help they can do, they'll walk in step by step and sit down with us and sit with the council. We have to make sure we have no issues.
Corey, I'm just wondering, in the report, you refer to a lot of the training and you use some terminology, which of course defines exactly what we provide or don't provide. And I'm just wondering for the benefit of the public, you could explain your term attack and rescue and also the talking about surround and drown. There's four terms that there are two different terminologies there that applies to a different service that we're offering. And if you could explain that, please.
Okay, surround and drown is where you take a building, firefighters surround a building, fire wire into the building to possibly extinguish it, contain the fire from spreading without doing entry. Now, an interior attack is when somebody goes in to do an interior attack, stop the fire from where it is inside the building to try and extinguish it. That is usually used, we're doing it possibly in hand with a rescue, sort of like at the hospital, the manor, and the old age home senior buildings. That's an interior attack. So that's where firefighters do an offensive move to go in and actually attack to get fires to come to it and suppressing from spreading. It's contained in that part of the building and possibly do a rescue at the same time, which a rescue is over evacuation. Firefighters go in and actually help people out of the building. The evacuation is when you do it yourself. I forget what the other one was. Well, sorry, Chair Plinski, the other two you asked about? You asked for, I believe you asked for 4 explanations. I think I got 2, and I forget the other 2 you'd say asked for.
I'm having difficulty hearing you. Hopefully everybody else can hear you.
Okay, Councilor Polinsky, I explained the interior attack and the surround and drown. I know you had 2 other ones. The rescue is when firefighters go in and actually rescue somebody either from an auto extrication or a building. It's not an evacuation on their own. It's where we have to actually use our skills to remove somebody safely from a building that they can't get on themselves. So I'm not sure if there's one more that you asked for an explanation.
Well, I mentioned the attack and rescue, and of course the one where you're talking about the surround and drown. So those are services that we already provide, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm glad that you explained what it means, and hopefully everybody could hear you. I'm having some audio issues here. But there were some other points also in this report and if we could just touch on them, and then if anybody does have questions, please raise your hand and bring it to my attention. One of them was the issues with the electric vehicle batteries and the danger that they present to firefighters on the scene. And could you just expand on that a little bit? Because I don't think a lot of people are aware of that.
The electric vehicles are sort of a new thing, but they are very toxic. They're very unpredictable. We've had firefighters, fire departments go out. They take up to 10,000 gallons of water to extinguish a car fire. The other thing is when the car is burnt out, we think it's extinguished. It's been known in a couple instances where the vehicle's been taken to a scrapyard. They have self-ignited 3 days after the fact. So they're very unpredictable. The training is very limited at the moment. We're trying to get more and more training as this technology comes along. They've also, when we're down there, had electric vehicles there to show us for extrication where the high voltage lines are inside the vehicle. That's like cutting a power line on a hydro pole. If we did accidentally hit one, it would electrocute the firefighter possibly. So we do have manuals on the trucks that shows for every vehicle that we know to this date where those wires are. So if we come up against an electric vehicle at an accident, we have to take extra caution. So that training's coming hopefully in the fall. We're down in Belleville to talk about. So our firefighters will train out, but like I said, the training is very limited. They're very unpredictable. These batteries, it seems to be like a learning curve as we go at the moment. There's no true science behind it that we can get. With like the fire marshal's working on it. The fire chiefs association is trying to get proper training, but right now, like I say, it's very tricky. Like you guys have to go full SCBAs. They have to be decontaminated if the air in the smoke. They have to be sent for cleaning right away because the fumes that come off these batteries, they're very toxic.
Okay. I'm just wondering if any of the council or staff have any questions or comments on the issues that you just expanded on. I don't see any. So maybe we could move on. It's something that you're obviously going to be getting more information on, and I'm sure you'll share it with everyone involved when that happens, Chief.
Yes, we will.
Thing on your report is dealing with the emergency management. And I think that there's some issues there. I know we have a resolution to talk about, but there's you've attended a trade show and various issues that have come up. If you'd like to expand.
I met the chief of the emergency management of Ontario. He was discussing how certification or how our yearly certification goes and what roles I would play, what role the alternate played. And they're saying a lot of fire department, or a lot of municipalities have their chief as the chief emergency municipal coordinator. They said the only drawback to that is if I'm out in the field, it's hard to be two places at once. They said usually you should be the alternate as a fire chief, but that's up to council discretion. They said an alternate community emergency coordinator hold the same rank. It just, the primary call goes to the CEMC first as opposed to the alternate, so they have one direct contact with the state. So if we had a major incident when I'm out in the field, for them to call me out in the field, me to respond back to the CAO to get things going in the mayor, they said it's going to be difficult to try to be two places at once trying to relay information. They say it's happened or information has been missed. So they're saying sometimes the chief should be the alternate as opposed to the primary contact for the province. That's what he's suggesting. He said he knows there's lots of fire chiefs are primary. They're saying your alternate works hand in hand, they're equivalent positions. He says really no knock. It's just the initial call that comes from your field officer and back to the CEO and the mayor to declare an emergency. That's their only reason behind it. If I'm out in the field, it's kind of hard to provide information. He said the two they used to be hand in hand with the fire marshal's office. They are totally two separate entities now in the Ontario government. And we just found out yesterday they have now hired a deputy minister to look after that for the Solicitor General, and he is now the Commissioner of Emergency Management of Ontario, which is a new position that's come into place. We just found that out yesterday at a meeting in Horton Township.
I'm just wondering if Madam CAO would want to speak about, is there something that we should be talking about at council regarding any changes or any changes in direction, or what are we doing with that?
Well, I'm just reading the report, same as council, received it last
Okay.
week. Now, the community emergency management plan would have to be changed if that was a direction that was being changed. So I wouldn't be making a recommendation at this meeting.
And I can understand, you can't be in two places. And if it means having someone else designated, then we would have to go through the normal procedures in doing that. So,
Yeah, because it has a wider implication because
Yes.
the deputy clerk is also the alternate for the CAO as well as the media coordinator. So that changes all of those positions as well, if that is the direction that is being proposed.
just lost my video here.
Oh, there you are.
I think we're back on.
Yep.
Technology is wonderful, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is.
Okay, so were there any questions about those reports by the chief? I don't see any other hands up, so we have a recommendation that we accept the reports as information. And also the bylaw activities report as information. And we 9.2, pages 59 to 62 in your package is 9.21, resolution from the District of Muskoka, June the 1st, 2022, re-annual emergency exercise exemption. And I believe that this was dealt with, Chief, at the meeting yesterday.
It was, Chair Paplinsky, it was a surprise to everybody else there that this motion was made. But I think most municipalities are going to support it because right now what happens is if we had a major incident, we have to do a tabletop exercise no matter what. We have had exemptions in the past, but we found out that those should have been given. You have to go to the Attorney General for that, or Solicitor General, I mean, to get that exemption. We were given exemptions through the chief of the Emergency Management Ontario, but that has now since changed by law. They said that we never had that authority. So if we had a major flooding again this year or a major tornado, we'd still have to go do a tabletop. So they're saying due to the windstorm and Muskoka, they're asking for an exemption because they went through a full scale event. So they said they shouldn't have to go and do a tabletop after they went through to open up their EOC. Everybody's declaring an emergency. They went through all the steps already. So they're saying, why can they not ask for an exemption when they did have a major incident that year for instead of doing a tabletop a second time, they've already went through the whole thing. So that's what they're asking to put that into law so that they can ask for that exemption. Right? Like I said, we found out yesterday, we can't actually get it. We were given it due to the pandemic through the Ontario government, and we'd have to do it again. But they said they're not giving any more exemptions. They want us to go step by step. So that's what this is asking for, the resolution to support Muskoka's thing to ask for, put that in place to change the rules.
I understand that. Understand that you and the deputy clerk attended the meeting.
That's correct.
Some of the issues that were raised were, my concern right away was that because there's different types of emergencies, and I wanted to make sure that they would cover their bases, and I understand that's what they're doing. They have to fit certain criteria, and is that your understanding of it?
Yeah, that's where I understand.
It's not just a.
No, it's not just the sort of the criteria they're saying is we'd have to open up our emergency control group. They'd have to meet. We'd have to declare to the state of emergency. We'd have to go through the whole thing as if it was a real tabletop, but if it's an actual emergency. We have to have a full-fledged emergency. Just like we did the flooding in 2019. In 2017, those are full-fledged emergencies, which we did all those criteria, but there's certain criteria that have to be met to be exempt for that, and we'd have to prove it. That's the one thing, we agreed with that. That's understandable.
So it's just, every case is judged on its own merit, and there's a possibility they may not have to have another one if they've already had an emergency exercise. Is that
correct?
Okay, that's good. There may be some questions by other members of council or staff. I know it is a very important thing because there are many townships that have many more, they're subject to more types of emergencies than we are. and can understand there. So we have a resolution here. And I'm just wondering,
I can read it through
Madam
the chair.
CIO, whether you would like to read that?
Yes, that Corporation for the Township of Madawaska Valley support the resolution from the District of Muskoka seeking annual emergency exercise exemption. Did you hear that, Councillor Paplinsky? Did you want me to read it again?
I'm having real difficulty hearing you.
Okay,
I don't know, did you,
yes,
it's just telling me that
I'll read it
is
again.
unstable.
Yes, that Corporation for the Township of Madawaska Valley support the resolution from the District of Muskoka seeking annual emergency exercise exemption.
Okay, thank you. So we've heard the resolution. I need somebody to, Mayor Love. Okay, and seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any comments, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, we motion is passed. Thank you. And just bear with me here while I'm trying to struggle through this. As I say, I'm having great difficulty hearing anybody, so I'm just about at the end here, so let me see what else I think is, any unfinished business? Don't see anything, so I'll handle the gavel, hand the gavel back to the mayor. Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair Paplinsky. Our
Work my sound here, see if I can get it. I have to get one of those big horns, you know, and
Thank you, Chair Paplinsky. Our next committee is Recreation and Community Development, and I'll turn it over to Chair Wilmer.
Thank you, Mayor Love. We have 3 items on our report today. The first item is, there's no recommendation, it's an update from Hannah on the June recreation activities. So Hannah, I'll let you go through it for us.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I just have some information here on some new rental agreement forms that we're using, as well as some summer programming, swim registration, and the opening of some of our facilities for the summer. So if anyone has any questions or comments, I'm happy to field them.
Are there any questions for Hannah? If not, then we'll move on to the next item, which is no cost rental hours for Madawaska Valley Public Library, and we will have a recommendation on this. Hannah, perhaps you could explain this one.
Sure, yeah. So I know in the past, I've heard that there was an agreement between the library and the township to be able to give no cost rentals a certain amount of hours. From conversations with Karen at the library, I believe there was donation request forms each time. So what I'm proposing here is that, you know, the library has a set amount of hours per year that they're able to use however they'd like to put on, you know, programming for the community. They regularly ask to use the PJY or the Cumbermere Hall just because their space is so limited. So I'm hoping to be able to give them for here, I put 2 hours a month, however they want to divide it. So a total of 24 hours for the calendar year. And then, yeah, they'd be able to put on programming without having to come to council each time. And at the end of the year, I would be able to report back to council on what went on and how the hours were used.
You know, I think it's a good idea. It makes far more sense. And as I said, a lot of their programming supplements the programming we do for March break, et cetera, et cetera. And quite often some of these events take place on relatively short notice when they have somebody available to come in. So this is a great idea. Any questions? All right, if not, Sue, could you read the recommendation?
Through the chair, that council approve the Recreation Community Development Coordinator's recommendation to waive the rental fees for the Madawaska Valley Library for a total of 24 hours for the calendar year 2022, and that the Recreation Community Development Coordinator record and track the hours and events and report to council at year end.
All right, could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Paplinsky, seconded by Councillor Schulis. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right, the third and final item is the bigger one, and that is the development of a concept plan for Barry's Bay Lakeshore Park. Hannah, do you want to go through this one, please?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm very excited about this one. We received 2 proposals for our tender for the concept plan of Lakeshore Park. Staff looked it over, and a number of counselors were able to look them over as well. And after discussions with the group, we feel that Beacon would be a great fit to be able to do this plan for us. So that is what what staff is recommending we move forward with. I did include their proposal here, so you can read it over. If anybody had any questions about this, please let me know. And the good thing is it's going to be under budget, which is fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, my comment, I did get to read through both of them, and I agree with the recommendation, because this report certainly meets our needs and what we're looking for a little more than the other. It is more expensive than the other, but it provides more too, and it still is within budget once the HST is taken off. So, you know, in these days, you never know whether you're going to get anything within budget. So we're very pleased that it was. So those are my comments. I look forward to it being completed, hopefully by September or so. Any other comments? Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think we need to move ahead on this. Right now, I'm just kind of wondering what sort of participation then the public can have, and when are we anticipating having some information meetings where the public can attend and with council if they wish, and to talk about different ideas?
Yeah, so we have been collecting public input since mid-May, or even earlier, I think. So I did kind of put out a survey. The survey was in the newspaper. It's available online, and I do have like an online version. I've had about 200 responses, which is fantastic. So we've had a lot of public input already. Once we get going, we can kind of take a look and chat with the contractor there with Beacon if we choose to go with them regarding any kind of public meetings. It wasn't included in the proposal, like we didn't request them because we have been getting public input in a different way, but it's not something that's off the table if that's something council's interested in. So.
All right, Mayor Love.
So Hannah, can the public still fill in the survey at this point in time? And is there a deadline by which you want to have all the surveys in by?
It is still open. So I am going to probably push it a couple more times, and then we will close it so that the responses can be used by the people putting together the plan. But a lot of them, just from scrolling through, there is a lot of, most people are on the same page. Most people want the same kind of stuff in that space, which is really great. So there's not too many outliers, but yeah, so I will have to set a deadline. So I will get that done probably this month, because I know once we get going, we don't want to stop the train, so to speak.
And Hannah, will you compile all that information and put a short report together?
Sure, yeah, I was planning on going through, and it's a lot of it is kind of paragraph form. This is what I want. So I was going to go through, and I will be kind of putting together generally what people want and the number of people who kind of tick those boxes, and I can present that to council for the July, or I guess August meeting for sure.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, Sue, could you please read the recommendation?
Through the chair, that council accept staff's recommendation to award Beacon Environmental the tender MV 2022-02 in the amount of $43,220.52, which is $38,921.42 after tax rebate.
Could I get a mover and a seconder? Mary Love moved, seconded by Councillor Schulas. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that's carried. Right, and Is there any further correspondence or information, Hannah?
Nope,
No.
all good.
And no unfinished business? Councillor Schuler.
Yes, to you, Chair Wilmer. Yeah, I got a call from Helen Ben, who is the chair of the Byers Bay Recreation, and she tells me that they have a very successful bottle drive. They've got the shack up at the the Barclay landfill, and it's getting full. The only problem they have is getting volunteers to go and pick the bottles up and get refunds. So she's asking, can maybe a little blur in our advertising in the newspaper or Facebook, our Facebook page or whatever, to get the word out that we need, or the committee needs volunteers. Is that possible? That's all I'm asking you.
Yeah, I can take a look. I'll have to just see as far as, spending advertising dollars for the committee, how it works with different committees. Doesn't just play the new girl card, but I just want to double check that everything's all good there before we move forward. But I certainly don't see why not. And if there's anything social media wise, we can certainly be sharing that with them.
Yeah, you can connect with Helen and stuff. They're not having a meeting till in a couple of weeks, so she's just watching this shed getting filled, and somebody's going to have to take care of that before it overspills. So that's very successful, which is good. And if we can somehow support them through advertising to get the word out, much appreciated. So thank you very much.
All right, if there's no more correspondence or information or unfinished business, I will relinquish the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you, Chair Wilmer. Our next section is planning matters and statutory meeting under the Planning Act. Under municipal reports, we have the building permit statistics for April 2022. And also the building permit statistics for May 2022. Did council have any questions on the statistics? Any comments? Okay, on either set. I'm not seeing anything, so we are accepting both of those as information. We don't have any other planning matters with this meeting. Is there anything outstanding, Sue?
No, just wanted to report to that the County of Renfrew that we had Lindsay and Alex here last Tuesday, and we have Lindsay here again today. And you'll see under bylaws, we do have the agreement with the planning services with the County of Renfrew, which every municipality is undertaking as well. You will find in the bylaw, the last page, there was, it was asking for office hours that they would be keeping. And that remained blank just because it's once a month. But it will be as needed until probably for the summer, because we're in the busy season right now. So we're looking at probably twice a month. But we're not going to be filling in. It's just an as needed basis. So I just confirmed with Lindsay this morning, and Lindsay is on the call. So that's why if you see that it's blank, it wasn't omitted. We just didn't put the amount of hours there.
Okay, thank you, Sue. So there may be questions about that when we get to the bylaw, but we'll take them at that point. So there are no further planning matters. We'll move into finance and administration, municipal reports. Our first one is property tax arrears update. And there's Janice. Janice, are you with us? There she is. You just need to unmute.
There we go. Better?
Excellent.
Okay. Okay, so I guess you can, if you had a chance to read the report, you can see that we're plugging along, reducing the arrears slowly but surely. And I don't really know what else to say other than what's in the report. We're just about to transfer water over to the taxes, and then we'll do the tax letters that will be just before registering the properties. I don't want to do that until I have all of the arrears in there. from water. So, but they are definitely coming down steadily. I think as long as we stay on top of it, that'll continue.
Thank you, Janice. And so it is, staff is making a concerted effort, but there are, every time you do tax billing, at some point, those arrears have to be put onto these arrears, and also water and wastewater billings that aren't paid off, right?
Right.
So it does continue to push the number back up, even though you have done significant work to
Definitely.
bring the number down.
Yes.
Okay. No, I understand that. So it's
each time we do a billing, current billing, and that's why the current year is usually the highest. And then once we just sent out arrears notices, so money is starting to trickle in from the current late payers, but probably in another month or so that will be substantially less than it is right now. But then we'll be doing the final billing, and so then it'll be substantially more.
Exactly. Okay, so staff is doing a good job on this. They are working at it in the background. Sue.
I think I just want to highlight to that, and that is the reason why we included, that Janice included the November 30th, 2020, when COVID was kind of where we got our direction to, because of the situation, not to pursue collections. I think if you just look at current, to Janice's point, that is kind of our gauge as to whether we're doing progress, because the letters that we pursue with arrears is the years below. But if you look at 2020, the current was 728,000. 2021 was 624,000. 2022 is 367,000. So I think if we always just look at the bottom number, sometimes we think that maybe it's not moving as fast as we think it should, but I think that shows remarkable commitment for the collection efforts that have been made.
And a significant amount of work to work with taxpayers to ensure that they can get on a payment plan to resolve their arrears. So it isn't just sending out a letter and saying, pay this or else. It's working with the taxpayer to help them resolve the problem.
Right.
Okay. Any questions from council on the arrears report? Okay, I don't see any. Janice, thank you. Thank you for updating us on that.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
All right, our next item is WSIB rebate of surplus funds, and this is from our treasurer, Amanda. Did you want to speak to it?
Not really much to speak to. There's a surplus in the WSIB fund as a result of some gains in the insurance investment. So I did apply once we received the letter. I applied for our check, and we just received it this week. So I'm just asking council that we put those surplus funds into our employee future benefits reserves as an acting availability for stability, as the WSIB rates will certainly be going up in the future. It was previously 2.85% on the gross salaries, and it did go up this year to 2.86. Maybe not so much, but it will definitely be going up in future years. So we have those funds set aside for fluctuations in our budget. So if council could approve that, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Sue, did you want to read the recommendation?
Yes, through the chair, that council approves the placement of WSIB surplus funds in the amount of 18,221 be placed into the employee future benefits reserve.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Is there any discussion on that recommendation? Any questions for Amanda? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, next is the General Ledger Department report for June 2nd, 2022. And this is Amanda's General Ledger. Any questions? Amanda, did you just want to take questions on the GL?
I can take questions. So it sort of goes part and parcel with the next line item as well, the overtime reporting. I should have put them together and I wasn't thinking properly. So I'll just say that salaries seem to be working in line, a little bit higher at the CO hall, and that might just be a scheduling changing as we're coming out of lockdowns. we do see that some heat and propane costs are higher in certain departments. So I think it might be posting errors. So we're looking into that for the fire department, for the arena, and for Cumbermere Hall. But we have been trying to stick within our budgeted amounts. Some weeks they're more difficult to control than others, but salaries mainly. With the overtime reporting, I'm hoping that the departments please encourage their staff to use that overtime in lieu of time off, rather than adding to the salary lines at the end of the year. So, but if council has specific questions, I can take them. If I don't have an answer, I will definitely get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Are there any questions for Amanda on the GL? Okay, I'm not seeing any, Amanda. So, thank you for that information. If council has any questions later on, they can always contact you with those questions. I'm sure that you'll provide them with answers. We'll move on to that overtime reporting, Amanda.
Yes. Let me just pull it up here.
Page 151.
Okay, there we go. Yes, so I just broke down just provided you with the overtime hours that have been banked for each department, what those numbers are and what it looks like to you with the values, because we can look at somebody's salary, but then there's there's all of the municipal employer responsibilities, such as benefits and taxes and so what that looks like. So right now, from January to the end of May, the total cost of overtime is $41,339.21. So it's important for the departments to work their budgets and make sure that we stay in line with what they have requested for their departments, and make sure that we, try not to go over, and give staff, if they've had to work the overtime, give them the time off that they deserve, certainly. So if council has any questions for me.
Okay, any questions from council on that? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. I'm assuming that if any of these departments had individual employees who are at or near their maximum overtime hours, that would be something you would be addressing through the department heads.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, we'll hope that people can get the time off that compensates them for their overtime hours, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you for that, Amanda. I appreciate the update, as does council. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is office live stream recording equipment. And this is a report from our deputy treasurer, or not treasurer, sorry, deputy clerk. I had the deputy part right. There she is, Gwen. Gwen, I'll turn it over to you if you wanted to speak to this.
So we've had two people come in to give us estimates and suggestions on our council chambers. And I'm suggesting that we go with Combatech Multimedia. This person has done he's done what, 10 out of 12, 15 something, 20 out of 22 municipalities. He's also done the county of Renfrew, and he had some good recommendations and some advice. He provided 3 quotes. One was like the Cadillac model that we can build up to if we require it. But right now, with the council chambers being in flux and not sure about the renovations to the building, I don't suggest that we do that. And one of his recommendations was to replace the mic system. But because our mic system's fairly new, I would say about 5 years old, we can still get by with it. There'll be some training involved because there'll be an extra screen and extra cameras in council chambers that I will have to flip between. But he thinks he'll make it fairly simple to use so that we don't need another staff person to sit through the meetings or hire him to sit through a meeting.
Okay, so it will automatically work, is what you're
Yes.
suggesting. Okay. No, I
Fingers
know.
crossed.
Yeah, he does a great job at the county of Renfrew, and that's fairly complicated.
Very complicated. We did check it out when we were there. So
Mhm. Okay, and so this is going to allow us to do a hybrid meeting, this equipment?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Any
And
questions from?
sorry,
Go
one of the
ahead, Gwen.
components of it was also a large screen TV. We looked at getting a whiteboard type thing, but we decided against it. He said that they're becoming obsolete. So he decided that a large screen TV would work. And I'm not sure if anybody's been at the County of Renfrew. Sue, myself, and the planning and building assistant was at a workshop there, and we sat behind one of these screens that he referenced, and it worked really well. It's on a high mount so that we can adjust it. It's on wheels so we can tuck it away when it's not in use. And it was very visible. Like, we had no problem at all when we were in the third row back, and we had no problem at all seeing it, and the quality was quite good.
I've been on that large screen.
Yes.
A couple of times. Councillor Wilmer. Oh, you're muted still. Your turn.
My turn. Yeah, so this system will allow us to continue to do what we've been doing with over Zoom, but in person, really. Well, I mean, in the old days, we would just have a audio version of the meeting, but this will allow
live streaming as well. Yes.
Yeah, to go to our website, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Oh, that's great.
I think that's super important because people have come to expect that level of transparency from their council after the COVID pandemic. And as we come to the end of the pandemic, they expect to be able to watch meetings whenever they would like to.
Yeah.
And our live streaming is quite popular. A lot more people have been watching the live stream as opposed to listening to the recording.
Okay, Councillor Wilmer.
Sorry, I think it would be a big step back to go back to just the audio. So I think this is really, really good.
Okay, maybe I'll have Sue read or Gwen. I'll have Gwen read the recommendation. It's her recommendation.
That council approves the quote from Compotech Multimedia for live stream recording equipment and a presentation Zoom display, including training, of $9,951 plus HST, and that the modernization funding grant is utilized for $8,000 and the balance of the funding be withdrawn from office capital expenditures account 015010079998.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Are there any questions or comments from council on that recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate that you've looked into this and we're going to get it sorted out. Hopefully, are we on target for August? Or will we be a little bit later?
No, we should be, other than the fact that there are some concerns with receiving product.
Yes. Okay. So whenever that's finally set up and we get a chance to test it, we should be able to conduct a hybrid meeting, and we'll see what happens. That'll be interesting. Okay, thank you. Our next item is our administration report, and this is a report from Sue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just an update on some of the items that we've been working on, including workshops and training, sessions that we've been attending. There's been a couple of, now that things are opening up, there's been a couple of public meetings as well. I did attend one on affordable housing in Killaloe, as well as there had been a council invitation to attend the RC Inquest Arts Engagement Project. That was more just the kickoff, and recognizing Madawaska Valley is the next installation of the mosaic at the Water Tower Park. So it was just kind of a kickoff as to what will be happening. So those timelines have been provided to Hannah, and they will be posted, and what type of community engagement can happen, and the contact has been posted for that. And the rest is just basically updates. If you have any questions, the circle agreement, the bylaw is attached. That's something that we had agreed we would do yearly for the drive test at the arena. So they've agreed that that works well for them. So that bylaw is attached. If you recall, some of the previous requests of staff was to update the property standard bylaw parking bylaw, the exotic animal bylaw, and the fire bylaw. So those require being sent to the division registrar. 2 of them have been sent, and we've received comments as to what needs to be changed. And then the other 2, we're still doing some drafting before it gets forwarded, but they're both ready to be sent to the division registrar as well. And I think if you have any questions for me on content of the report, then that might be easier to just answer some questions.
Okay, thank you, Sue, and thank you for attending the public meeting on the meeting on housing, and also the meeting for the stone circle and that particular item, because I unfortunately have some family issues that I'm being very cautious about exposures at this point in time. So I do appreciate that the CAO is going on behalf of council. Councillor Poplinski.
Thanks, Mayor Love. Actually, my question relates to the gone. Where the heck did it go? Gone.
I think it's page 156, if that helps.
I don't know if you can hear me. I know that
Yes.
my question was to regarding the affordable housing meeting that you had in Killaloe on the 25th of May, and I see there's another meeting coming up on the June the 8th. This is a very, very important subject, and I know all council feels the same way. And I've had so many calls, people looking for housing. It's just unbelievable, and there's just nothing for rent. I don't know whether you can hear me or not, because I don't see it. Okay, so I'm very concerned, and I certainly would like to, I know we're all involved, but I'd like to continue to be involved in this. And it is something, I know the county is responsible, but there are many things that we can do to encourage it and encourage the county to do more, and any other body that could get involved. But I really, I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Poplinski. Was there any other comments or questions on the administration report? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Sue. Then our next item is the operational service delivery report, actionable items, and I will turn it back to Sue to speak to that one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically just a summary of the recommendations that were provided through the operational service delivery review. And I have to say, as I've been just compiling some of the staff input and the recommendations from Wayfinder, I call it the moving target. Every time I would finish page 3, I could go back to page 1 and see that we've already acted on something else on that page. It's actually quite encouraging to see how much of it we've already either started or we've implemented. Some of them we've already finished. Some of them have come back to council. And what I tried to do was to highlight in the cost section as well as in the action timeline, staff responsible section, areas that are either depending on funding or some of the larger items, such as some master plans, those that may have to wait till 2023 under the guise of under the supervision and direction of a new council as well. Some of them are phased in projects, such as like the CGIS. So it shows that we've already completed 3 of the 4 phases that we were planning on doing. But included in that, I did add that we are moving forward with the GIS service, the GIS programming at the county as well, which we already do and we will continue to do. So I could probably go over this every second day and continue to add to it because staff has been so actively working interdepartmentally on different areas of the recommendations that were there. I was hoping to just add at the bottom, because it's only 2 pages, where we're at with the strategic plan as well. But I didn't get a chance to put those 2 pages on there, so I'll just put that separately at some point. But that one was just more, we spoke about it during budgeting, just saying what it was that we would be working towards. And even that one, as we listened to some of the recreational updates and some of the PJY updates, some of the strategic directions that we were going into are being worked on right now as it pertains to some of those areas that we had highlighted as trying to get to by 2023.
Okay, thank you, Sue. I mean, this is very comprehensive and shows where our senior leadership team have started to tackle some of the good recommendations. I'm just wondering if you could simplify this for us, maybe with I guess what council would be interested, I think what council might be interested in is, you know, each of the recommendations. So AG01, it says work orders, just a simple status in progress or complete. Or not being tackled yet. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's what we want to know. Is staff doing this one? If so, is it in progress? And some of these are complete, as you say. So, and like a 1 line for each one of these recommendations. So we get a chart that allows us to get a quick overview of what you're working on. Because I was trying to, you know, sort of give a check mark when something's complete and put a star beside the things you were working on. But with all this many pages of detail, it was really hard to get a quick sense of what your staff is focusing on.
Right.
And, you know, I think council would like to then look at the things that haven't been tackled yet that are bigger items and start to prioritize those, because they are going to take some funding possibly and budgeting. And it will probably be the next council that does that prioritization. But I think it might be nice to at least see this, because there's a lot of progress here in the report you've given us. And as I say, do you understand what I'm asking for? It's sort of like taking what you've got and really making it simple so we can see each line, each recommendation. Is it being worked on or not at this point in time?
Yes,
absolutely. Or is it done? Because some of them are done.
Yes. No, I can do that.
Councillor Wilmer.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of information in this. I find it very interesting to go through, but I think your idea would be a good one. And perhaps the only thing I would add to that, it would be nice to get a comparison to see from month to month what has changed and how much. So it might be, if you post a 1-liner in June, you know, include it with the July one too, and then we can see the real progress from month to month. But I think having a 1-liner would certainly give us an easier way of looking at it. But I do like reading through this and seeing it keeps you, sort of reminds you of exactly what each area is about.
If I may, maybe I could propose that it's like I'll just do a monthly chart in color code if it's completed, or if it's moved forward to in progress or modified. And then you would have all of the description on the side and what has been completed and what is being worked on.
Yes, because it obviously shows to us, Sue, that a number of these recommendations are requiring coordination for different department heads with different people working on them, and that they're not simple. Some of them are complex. And as I say, that's what I can get a good feel for from what you've provided us. What I can't get a good feel for, just because I'm a visual person and I can't capture, you know, what is this, 22 pages in my, and hold it. I just can't get a sense of, oh yes, in this area they're doing these things. This hasn't been started yet. This is almost done, and this is done.
Right.
Right. I think that's where I'm being challenged to get a good sense of what staff has prioritized and is working on. And I think that's then what council would like to have some input in with some of these recommendations that are going to, as I say, require funding be budgeted for them, or funding be found for them hopefully through government grants, how do we tackle that? Any other comments or thoughts from council on this? Councillor Poplinsky.
Thanks, Mayor Love. I couldn't see you during most of that, but now I got you back on. I think you've hit it right, the nail right on the head. I think that's exactly what we need at this point in time. There's just so much stuff, we can't implement it all at one time. There's some things it's not going to cost a lot of money, but it's time. Other things will cost money and we need to budget. But I think we do need to have that sort of like a roadmap as to where we're going, where we are, where we're going. And we've got personnel changes right now taking on different duties. And there's a whole lot of things why you can't suddenly come up with the solution to every problem. But I think that would be a major step. So I would encourage that. Thank you.
Okay, council. So does council concur then that we'll have the CAO do that for us so we can get a sort of an overview sense of this very detailed information she's given us? Is that okay? That as a next step, and then we'll be able to see where there may be things that we want as a council for staff to prioritize. I found a lot of what the staff had been working on were things that I had actually thought would be great to prioritize. So don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm displeased. I'm very pleased. I'm just struggling to see 22 pages and get a good sense of where you're working. Okay, so Sue, if you could do that, that would be great, and bring that back to us.
Thank you.
I don't know when you think that can be done and brought back to us. Probably not the next meeting, but maybe the next council and committee meeting.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Any other questions for Sue on any of the information here? So much great detailed information. No, okay, then we are going to accept that as information. And we will move on to correspondence and information. And just give me a second to get up to date here. I'm really behind on my agenda. Here we are. Okay. Correspondence and information. We have a resolution from the municipality of Chatham-Kent dated June 2nd, 2022, retirement home funding. Is this something that council would like to just accept as information? I see Councillor Wilmer wanted to speak to it.
Yeah, when I look at the four items that are coming out of this resolution, I think it's something we should support. I agree with what they're stating, and so I think it's something we could support, or I'd be in favor of moving.
Okay, my only concern with that was this isn't necessarily not-for-profit retirement homes. This could be for-profit retirement homes, and I'm not sure about what that would mean for the not-for-profits and yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. That was my immediate concern.
Okay, well, I thought it was something that looked very positive, but if there are concerns, I certainly wouldn't push it. We can file it as information right now and maybe look into it a little more.
Well, I'm not sure if there are not-for-profit retirement homes. Sue?
I don't know.
May I suggest that I bring this forward to that steering committee that will be meeting on affordable housing, and just because the whole point of this review and the committee's meeting, trying to get a steering committee together, is to speak with one voice and to try to focus and highlight that all of County of Renfrew is having issues with housing. And we as a rural municipality want to ensure that we have access to funding, that we look at every opportunity, not just for low income, also for our seniors, and it's different types of housing that we require. And much of it, as much as we want to say it's a municipal responsibility, we don't have the mandate to do it. We don't have the funds to do it. We need to have that collaboration with the province, with the regions, with the federal government. So I could bring it to that steering committee and see if it's something that their municipalities are supporting. And maybe coming from this would be a resolution that fits more with Renfrew County and our rural needs, as opposed to this.
I think that
Or
would be
both.
great. No, I think it would be great to get a little more information and to see if because I just don't know enough about this. I just felt a concern. Councillor Wilmer.
Well, I think that's an excellent idea. And just to answer your question, there are not-for-profit senior homes. I know the city of Ottawa runs 4 of them. So there is a combination. So there's a lot of more information perhaps. And I think Sue's solution is a good one, or proposal.
Mm-hmm. We might also seek some input from the County of Renfrew because certainly there are far more knowledgeable people, employees at the County of Renfrew in regards to all of these nuances about seniors accommodations. And I would like to support it if I could be comfortable it wasn't going to have a negative impact on not-for-profit as opposed to the for-profit homes. Any other thoughts from council on this? So we just follow what the CAO has suggested, and she'll take it to the housing group, and then she'll get back to us. Okay, so we will do that. That's great. Okay, so that completes our standing committees for today. We didn't have any unfinished business, did we, Sue? In finance and admin?
We don't have anything in finance and admin, but I forgot to get to call to see if it was still going to be to lobby council to see what we are planning to do for the month of July for meetings. In the past, the month of July, there have been no meetings other than scheduled special council meeting if there are timelines for planning matters. So I'm not sure if that is something you want us to bring back at the June 17th or at the June 21st meeting, or if you wanted to discuss it now.
It certainly was my understanding there wouldn't be any meetings in July, but if we need a planning meeting, then, as you say, then we'll have to do a planning meeting.
Okay, so
Does
then maybe
council
what
feel
I'll
the
do,
same? Yeah.
what I can do is look at the schedule and we will propose a date then in July. I do know we will have to have a meeting because we do have some projects that will require a public meeting. So I will look at that, and maybe at the next June meeting, we will bring a proposed calendar for that.
Okay, no, that would be great. So we would do a public meeting followed by a short special council meeting in order to approve bylaws from the public meeting. Okay. All right. So if council's okay with that, if you could bring us back something to the second meeting in June. And with that, that will complete our standing committees. We'll move into our regular council portion of the agenda. And I'm going to do my best to get us having lunch at about 12:30 because we have an in-camera session at 1. So here we go. Confirmation of the minutes, regular council meeting minutes, May 17th, 2022. The recommendation is that the regular council meeting minutes for May 17th, 2022 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any errors or omissions on these minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All right, we will move into bylaws. Bylaw 2022-30 regarding shoreline road allowance closure and disposition along Long Lake, aka Halfway Lake, in front of Lot 16, Registered Plan 520 in the geographic township of Radcliffe. The recommendation is that bylaw 2020-30 being a bylaw to provide for the closing and stopping up of part of the shore road allowance along Long Lake, aka Halfway Lake, in front of Lot 16, Registered Plan 520, Radcliffe, now in the township of Madawaska Valley in the county of Renfrew, and for the sale thereof to the abutting landowner be given third and final reading this 7th day of June 2022. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2022-58 regarding authorization and execution of an agreement with Serco DEC Incorporated with respect to use of office space at the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center for drive test purposes. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-58, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and the execution of an agreement between Serco Canada Incorporated and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley, be given first and second reading this 7th day of June 2022. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-58 be given third and final reading this 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any final discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2022-59 regarding an agreement with the Center for Geographic Information Systems, CGIS, for providing Spatial Land Information Management System, SLIMS. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-59, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and the execution of an agreement between the Center for Geographic Information Systems, hereinafter referred to as CGIS, and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley for providing Spatial Land Information Management System, SLIMS, services, be given first and second reading the 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-59 be given third and final reading this 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any final discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2022-60 regarding agreement with the County of Renfrew for providing planning services. And Sue, this is the bylaw where there is no set amount of planning hours, correct?
That is correct. Yes,
But there will be planning hours.
that's correct.
Okay, so just so council is aware. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-60, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and the execution of an agreement between the County of Renfrew and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley for planning services, be given first and second reading the 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Schulist, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-60 be given third and final reading the 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any final discussion on this bylaw? Sue?
I just wanted to add, I will be bringing to council monthly what activities have been happening in the planning department, of which we utilize some of the staffing time in the county.
Okay, thank you, Sue. I appreciate that. Any further discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2022-61, this council, just so you're aware, is the bylaw that was changed where it said Sherwood to Radcliffe because it's in Radcliffe. Regarding the amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2006-26 as amended, Watkowski. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-61, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2006-26 of the Township of Madawaska Valley as amended, be given first and second reading the 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-61 be given third and final reading the 7th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any final discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Bylaw 2022-62 regarding terms of reference for the Station Keepers MV and to establish a memorandum of understanding between the municipality and the station keepers MV use of the Barry's Bay Railway Station. The recommendation is that bylaw 2022-62, being a bylaw to establish a terms of reference for the station keepers MV and to establish a memorandum of understanding between the Township of Madawaska Valley and the Station Keepers MV with respect to the facility use of the Barry's Bay Railway Station be given first and second reading the 7th day of June 2022. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on this bylaw? Councillor Wilmer. Oh, and you're muted.
Just a quick comment. Some of us on council were fortunate enough to have a small tour through it on Friday, and I just want to say that it looks just super. I know it was open this weekend for as the visitor center too, and done a really nice job, and the visitor center fits in with what's there. So just great to see.
Fantastic. Thank you for attending that. Again, I do have family reasons why I can't be out and about in public like that at the moment. Amanda, you had your hand up, our treasurer.
Yes. So just looking at the agreement under the liability, the insurance portion, there is the section that states that our insurance will cover their volunteers, but our insurance, they're not a committee of council. They're its own public or separate entity, legal entity. Therefore, our insurance would not cover their volunteers, and they would be required to have their own general liability for their actions or their events, because our insurance does not recognize or would not recognize them as being a part of Madawaska Valley. So I have a little bit of a concern about that. Like, I think we should make sure that we clear that up moving into this agreement.
Okay, so Sue, I think that's a very valid point. Maybe what we could do is first and second reading today, and you could clarify that point, and then it could come back to council for third and final reading.
Okay, I just need to clarify if, Amanda, are you just speaking about their board? Or do you mean their committee? Because we do have, if anybody uses the information center, uses the grounds, that's our municipal liability. If they go into the center, that's our municipal liability. Are you just referencing their committee when you say volunteers? Is it the wording maybe?
So on page 5, it says that volunteers of the station keepers MV or municipal volunteers occupying the grounds, volunteers of the station keepers would not be covered because they're volunteers of the station keepers. They're not our municipal volunteers. We have municipal volunteers, which are, they form different committees like the Cumberland Rec and Bears Bay Rec, and they are committees of council. But the station keepers are not a committee of council. My understanding, we don't control their actions. They have their own financial setup, and so with that in mind, our insurance then would not recognize them as Madawaska Valley. And so this section here that says volunteers of the station keepers would not realistically match up with our insurance, because whatever events that they put on, it's their events, similar to other, like we have the Opeongo seniors, they use our facility, but they have their own insurance and they operate under their own auspices. We have no say in what they do. And so if they had an event or a function at our facility and something happened as a result of that event, that is their liability. And so if they don't have the proper insurance, I'm just concerned for them that they would not have the proper coverage, because our insurance would not step up, because they are not considered a committee of council.
Amanda, is there any way they could be covered under the, there's some very inexpensive insurance for, like it's, I don't know, it's a few dollars. It's not a lot of money, and we keep track of groups that rent from us, and
the
they
town
get that
insurance?
inexpensive insurance because their activities are not in a certain risk group.
Right.
Is there any way they could be covered by that? But we would have to document the usages, I guess, the events, as it were.
Yeah.
You're
Is
speaking
that a
about like the town
possibility?
insurance? Is that what you're speaking of? Sorry.
Oh,
Is that what it's called, Amanda?
It's like,
The arena?
well, see at the arena. So if someone rents the facility, then there's an insurance there, but they're not renting the facility. They're not renting the railway station from us. So
It's kind of an in-kind rent.
yeah.
I think we should probably sort this out. I want to make certain that we're not putting those volunteers at risk. I would hate to have something happen and then find out there was no insurance coverage. So, Sue, if we were to do just first and second reading to make a placeholder, could we have yourself and Amanda check into this and speak to the station keepers? Because I mean, ultimately, we want to ensure that there is coverage, so that should anything bad happen, that someone's not going to find out that nobody's covering them.
Yeah, because I do know the station keepers had, the issue at hand previously was that they had to cover their board, and that they do have a rider for that. That's separate. So I'll speak to Amanda after the meeting.
Okay, so could we leave it for the two of you to sort that out? I think it's very important that we are very clear, because if our insurance company isn't going to cover them, they need to know that. So we need to make sure of that. So are you okay with the council with us doing first and second reading, and we'll just make certain of this? Give
Yes.
staff some time. Okay, we're good with that. Are you okay with that, Sue?
Yes.
Okay. And so do I have a mover and a seconder for first and second reading? Did I do that?
Yes, you do.
I did. Okay.
Councillor Wilmer and Schulist.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure where I was at. So with that, council, then we won't do third reading on this, with your agreement. Not seeing any concerns. So then I'll just call the vote on first and second reading, and staff will find out about the insurance. They'll verify. Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll hold on the third reading until you know. All right, that completes our bylaws. Today we have an in-camera session. We're going to go in camera, and then we're going to take lunch, and our in-camera session will start at 1, just for the public's information. The recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss, I'm just checking, I saw somebody left. Okay, no, I still have all of council. The recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss matters pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Chapter 25, Section 239, 2B, E, D, and F. Number 1 is court file number CV-21-000002-0000, Wishart Law updates. That is again at 1 p.m. And number 2, human resource updates from the CAO clerk. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And that's carried.